Hey everybody, happy Monday out there. Thank you so much for joining us here on Northern Life. Ryan, I think this is the latest, like we talked about earlier, with my swimming in my lake. It was mid-October, I believe it was, or late October.
Sure.
And now it's the latest, taking out my fishing boat. And that was last week on November 6th. Not only was it November 6th, it was at night, and it was at 10 o'clock at night with the rain coming down.
Man.
It was something, Ryan.
I'm sure your neighbors love you.
Yes, they do, yeah. All these lights shining out on the water.
Yeah.
We set up my parents' vehicle and my vehicle, and it was quite the spectacle.
People talking all night.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm happy you finally got it out.
Oh my gosh, and it's starting to freeze with the colder temperatures this past weekend, and kind of sketchy out there.
And
so
before the snow starts flying.
yes, just in time.
Well, hey, thanks for being here today because it is a big day for the Great Lakes and the Northland. That is because we are remembering 50 years since the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Now, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald was an American lakes freighter that sank in Lake Superior during a fierce storm back on November 10th, 1975. Tragically, all 29 crew members were lost, and the exact cause of that sinking still remains unknown. And at the time of its launch in 1958, the vessel was the largest on the Great Lakes and earned the nicknames Big Fitz and the pride of the American flag.
A very tragic piece of history here around our region. My question here to you, Ryan, is you grew up down in the cities, of course, Maple Grove. Did you hear about it as much as maybe us as kids up here?
I don't think necessarily. I think Gordon Lightfoot's song is obviously the one that drives many people to this story. But, you know, coming up here, understanding how much, how the importance of shipping here in the Twin Ports and the Northland, it's pretty remarkable seeing how many people care, obviously, about this story and because there's so many victims too, families of those members that were lost.
A lot of people directly impacted by this. I mean, it's only been 50 years, so there's going to be a lot of people out there that have been directly impacted. Very tragic loss, for sure.
Very tragic. So tonight here on Northern News Now, we will be bringing you live coverage from up the North Shore at Split Rock Lighthouse. Our 4 p.m. newscast actually moving to 3:30 p.m. So then at 4 o'clock, we'll take you live to Dan Wolf, who will be live from the Split Rock Lighthouse, where tonight's ceremony will be taking place, marking 50 years up the North Shore.
And I believe that we're going to be talking with Dan later on here, talking more about the show itself, what it entails, and a lot of different ways to honor this Edmund Fitzgerald.
And also an amazing exclusive interview that Dan's going to have later tonight at Northern News Now, so be sure to stick around for that conversation with them. Also tonight, there will be a special airing of a new documentary about the Fitzgerald. Our friends over at Discover Wisconsin, the nation's longest-running travel and tourism TV series, will be airing their own documentary, The 50-Year Mystery of the Edmund Fitzgerald. The project explores one of the Great Lakes' most enduring stories, all sorts of new aspects and new information. So be sure to find that tonight exclusively for our television market here in the Northland, coming up at 6:30 on our NBC side.
And if I remember right, it's also a collaboration between several of our stations within our network here throughout Wisconsin and Minnesota. And so quite the collaboration putting this whole piece together, and it's going to be very interesting to see later on.
Yeah, historians, I believe, meteorologists too, a lot of different aspects, it sounds like. So it also sounds like 6:30 p.m. is that 30-minute documentary. Discover Wisconsin also going to have an hour-long documentary coming up soon on their YouTube channel as well.
Yes, also an interesting piece about our show tonight, we just watched Adam talk a little bit with another meteorologist about the storm itself and the kind of data that we had and the instruments that we had with how young meteorology is itself. 50 years ago, we didn't have as good of stuff that we do have in today's world. So very interesting to hear that side of it as well.
And that conversation also coming up on our evening newscast here on Northern News Now.
Check that out for sure. 50 years is, of course, a big anniversary, and 10 years ago, our very own Dave Anderson took the time to show us how the Northland came together to mark the 40 years since the Fitzgerald sinking.
Yeah, I was able to find this back in our archives. Let's take you back to 2015 in Silver Bay.
Of course, again, I was right close to Whitefish, and we got that return sea from the point coming back, and we'll see going every direction but it was by far the worst storm I ever seen.
Cedric Woodard was on board a Swedish ship on Lake Superior on November 10, 1975, in the same storm that took down the Edmund Fitzgerald. Dale Hollingsworth was standing Coast Guard communications watch that day as news of the Fitz spread.
About 6:30 in the morning, I started getting telephone calls wondering if their fathers, their brothers, or their sons, if they were alive. And I couldn't give them that answer.
40 years later, Many of those answers haven't been found, but hundreds of people still gathered Tuesday night at Split Rock Lighthouse to pay tribute to the souls lost on the Fitzgerald. Lee Radzak manages Split Rock.
There's 29 men that went missing. There's nobody to tell the story.
But Minnesota State Senator Roger Reinert and a choir were there to sing in honor of the missing.
Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea.
People at the ceremony came from as far away as Canada with memories of the tragedy still fresh.
When this happened, I was traveling from a little town called Geraldton into Thunder Bay. It was early in the morning when the first announcement came.
40 years later, people with connections to the lost sailors still have a hard time adjusting.
It is kind of hard for people to cope with. It is hard because my ex-wife is having a hard time dealing with it. It was her uncle.
And little discoveries mean the world to those families. Ben Larson of Silver Bay helped find a picture of a friend's loved one.
We had a hard time figuring out the faces, and she said, "Ben, that's my dad right there in that white hat." Wow. And it was a shock to me.
Lee Radzak has been working here at the lighthouse for 33 years, and these ceremonies have been going on for 30 years, and he tells us they will continue to go on for many more years.
Oh, I think it's something that's kind of ingrained into the tradition of Split Rock, and I think it's something that will continue on. And the lighthouse is going to be here a long time, so I think the ceremony will be here.
Near Silver Bay, Dave Anderson, KBJR 6.
Welcome back, folks. For the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald, our entire Northern News Now team is working hard to bring you stories tied to this Great Lakes tragedy.
And today, guess who's back? Northern News Now evening anchor Dan Wolf here in studio. Dan, always good to have you here.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Thanks for taking the trek up the stairs here at the station.
Yes.
You got it.
It's going to be a fun night tonight. You know, our 4 p.m. show moved up to 3:30. We're going to be live with Dan at the memorial ceremony happening at Split Rock. Yeah, more live coverage 5 and 6. I mean, how are you feeling before all this happens, Dan?
It's just a special, it's a very solemn event, obviously, but it's also a special event to be a part of. And so many people are going to be there. It's sold out, the ceremony. There are going to be a lot more people there this year for the 50th anniversary ceremony there at Split Rock Lighthouse. And the tolling of the bells, the reading of the names of those who lost their lives that day, and then the lighting of the beacon. And we've got all kinds of special coverage we're planning for that night.
I understand that you're talking to a coastie that actually helped respond to the Fitzgerald that night.
Yeah, it's a story that I think a lot of people don't know about. It's one that I didn't really understand or know much about. So Robert Caldall was a Coast Guard veteran. He had just arrived in Duluth 3 weeks into his service with the Coast Guard, young kid, stationed on the Woodrush, a Coast Guard cutter stationed in Duluth, had just gone on R&R with all of his crew members on November 9th, 1975, and then of course we know what happened November 10th. He tells his story of how it came about that ship that he was on, the Woodrush, ended up being the only one to go out into the storm after what they hoped would be survivors of the Edmund Fitzgerald and the shipwreck. Wow. And he tells the story of what the storm was like, what it was like going under the lift bridge. It is absolutely wild to hear. And he and everyone aboard the Woodrush, just some brave heroes trying to go save lives in the middle of an epic storm.
Seriously.
Man, I think in our line of work, Dan, you know, when we're doing interviews with someone, you see sometimes their facial expressions as they're reliving this. Was that just such an incredible moment to be able to talk to him about that?
It was, and especially so because he had never publicly spoken about this story or told anyone. Wow. He'd only told his wife and the gentleman who introduced me to him. Those were the only two people he'd ever told the story to. In fact, he was married to his wife 2 years before he even told her about it.
Oh my gosh.
It was something that was hard for him to talk about, but he, in his words, wanted to share the story while he's still here with us and make sure that people know about more of the history of that day and of the shipwreck.
Well, that's another great question. How do you find a guy like this and get him to tell this kind of story?
Yeah, it just kind of fell out of the sky for me, honestly. A lot of you may have heard of Vibe with Mike. That is a YouTube content creator of Great Lakes shipping and has a massive following all over the world, 100,000 subscribers. His videos get 1 million+ views. And he's kind of an Edmund Fitzgerald historian who lives in Duluth. And he reached out to me and said he wanted to share his story, how he feels, his knowledge of the Edmund Fitzgerald with me, and also introduce me to Robert Kaldal, that Coast Guard veteran, and have him share his story with me. So it's a Northern News Now exclusive, and it's a story that we've put a lot of work into, and we're excited for everyone to see.
Oh, man. And when you move up, I mean, I moved up here to Duluth. Danny moved up here to Duluth. Hunter's from here.
Yeah.
Shipping, obviously, such an important part of this area. What have you learned in your time here about the importance of this Edmund Fitzgerald story?
Yeah, you know, when I first arrived in Duluth, I think we'd all heard a little bit about the Edmund Fitzgerald. We've all heard the song at some point or other. But you get to know, you hear from a lot of the victims' family members over time. You hear from people who work in shipping or who have lived here in the Northland for a long time. That story just means a lot more to those people, and in return, it ends up meaning a lot to you. And so I've great reverence for that story, what happened on that fateful day back in 1975, and family members of those victims. And people like Robert Kaldal, who we'll hear from with that story, who tried to save lives. If anyone was in the water that could have been saved, he would have saved them.
Oh my gosh, such an important and very tragic piece of history around here in our region. Is there anything else that you can think of that, off the top of your head anyway, that would be a special piece of what's going to be airing tonight?
Yeah, well, we're going to be hearing both from Mike, Vibe with Mike, the YouTube content creator, and of course Robert Kaldal. He's going to share his story. Something that I'll talk about, and I think this just speaks to the ferocity of that storm that night. So after Robert served in the Coast Guard here in Duluth, he went on to Alaska to be a survival instructor in the Coast Guard in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
He says the Bering Sea has got nothing on Lake Superior.
Wow,
And
that's incredible.
And we know it well.
Yes.
Lake Superior can do some things.
Yep.
All right, Dan Wolf. Dan, appreciate you stopping by.
Absolutely.
Be sure to find Dan tonight, 4 o'clock, as well as 5, 6, and 10 for all of that Edmund Fitzgerald coverage at Split Rock Lighthouse. We'll see you guys in a little bit here after the break. Welcome back, everybody. Wonderful conversation there with Dan, talking about all the things that are happening tonight here on Northern News Now.
And always cool to see his passion when it comes to anything news related, but definitely with something like this, with this magnitude.
And also a gentleman who has quite the story to tell and has not told it to many people, and the fact that he's sharing it with us, very special coming
Very
up tonight.
special, for sure.
Also very special. You know, Edmund Fitzgerald, one of those moments in history, has been captured, talked about in many forms. Obviously, that includes many books about the shipwreck. And there is a newer book called Ellie's Pursuit of the Mighty Fitz. So in 2023, Mackenzie Lee Williams wrote the children's story, but sadly in 2024, Mackenzie tragically died in a motorcycle crash. However, her mother and grandmother knew that they needed to share Mackenzie's work with the world, so they decided to self-publish Mackenzie's book. You can find it at museums around the Great Lakes, including Split Rock Lighthouse and the Richard I. Bong Museum.
My gosh, so you can find it locally here at a couple of different locations. That's very good. What a crazy story, my gosh.
Amazing, obviously such a tragedy.
Yes.
But the fact they're keeping her spirit alive too is pretty awesome.
Very important indeed, definitely. When you say the words Edmund Fitzgerald, there is one incredibly famous song that comes to mind.
The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, such an iconic song, but sadly, more than 2 years ago, Canadian-born singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot passed away. Dave Anderson took the time to honor the musician and hear about the impact his music will forever have.
When Gordon Lightfoot played Fortune Bay Casino in August 2013, the audience hung on every haunting word and delicately played note. The Canadian-born singer-songwriter was a hit as he played his hits during the show. News of his recent passing has hit the Northland's professional musicians hard. Andrew Perfetti of Superior has gigged for years in bands like Uprising, Laura Velvet and the Bookhouse Boys, and Boomstick.
His style is amazing. The songs he wrote were amazing. I mean, obviously, just even the local connection with record of the Edmund Fitzgerald. He was just an epic songwriter, very inspiring.
Meteorologist Hunter McCullough is part of perennial poll winners the Northwoods Band when he's not forecasting the weather. He says his band is always getting requests to play Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is indeed part of their repertoire.
Oh yeah, we do it all the time. We play that song, and I played it on KQ actually this past anniversary during the November of this past year in 2022. Played it with Jason Manning and my brother Colton.
Lightfoot's legend is large enough that none other than Hibbing High School grad Bob Dylan inducted him into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame in 1986. Two Harbors grad Hunter McCullough is sad the man is gone now, but glad his legend will live on, just like the line from his most famous song.
Very, very sad day, but definitely his music is able to live on like many artists that pass on as well.
Denfeld grad Andrew Perfetti feels the era of the singer-songwriter may have passed on along with Gordon Lightfoot.
The way that he wrote songs, the poetry, the way that he put words together, it's not something that people do anymore.
In Duluth, Dave Anderson, Northern News Now.
And Hunter, you get to sing the song on the morning show for KQ.
Yes, every single year. I want to say it's our third or fourth year doing it. We just did it this past morning with my brother and our other buddy Tony Thomas, and yeah, I mean it's an honor to be able to be doing this every single year on KQ for sure.
I would assume it gives you chills too.
It really does. My gosh, you really pay attention to the lyrics and just soak it all in. And I mean, Gordon Lightfoot really put pen to paper and made you really feel in that song.
And that song obviously has stood the test of time.
Yes, another legend in himself, Mr. Gordon Lightfoot.
Right. Well, it's fun looking back on that story too. Well, hey, coming up after the break, we'll talk about more of tonight's coverage and this week's blood drive. Welcome back. Once again, we thank you all for putting your time and your trust into our team here at Northern News Now. So if you're watching us at 12:30, be sure to join us tonight for live Edmund Fitzgerald Memorial coverage. And a reminder, our market exclusive documentary will be airing at 6:30 p.m. on NBC. And if you miss any of this tonight, be sure to go find more of our stories at northernnewsnow.com.
Yeah, 50 years. Just let that sink in.
Yeah.
It seems like a long time, but really it isn't that long of a time.
I mean, as we saw earlier in the show, 10 years ago when they were marking 40 years, 10 years is a lot of time, but you can obviously tell the difference on a lot of folks in 10 years.
Seriously, oh my gosh, it's pretty darn crazy. So definitely catch all those later on here tonight. Before we go today, also a reminder that our Northern News Now blood drive with Memorial Blood Centers is still underway today and tomorrow over at Pier B in their ballroom. It'll run here from noon to 7 today and then from 9 to 4 tomorrow. You can find the link to sign up at northernnewsnow.com. Another really fantastic blood drive, hopefully. We always break the record. I'm hoping we break the record again this time around here, Ryan.
Come out, break some records. You can also sign up for that appointment, mbc.org.
There you go, a couple different ways to do that. I'll be over there too, so come meet me, and Brendan will be over there, Adam will be over there at some point, so come hang out with all of us.
It'll be a lot of fun.
For sure. In the meantime, we love you.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Find some time to throw a line, or just head outside to unwind. That's the life in the great North Woods. Hike or bike, whatever you like. Get out in the day, enjoy the night. Yeah, we got the life in the great North Woods. Yeah, we got the life in the great North Woods.